One day, Jesus got into a boat and said to his disciples, "Let's go across to the other side of the Sea of Galilee." And although our Bible doesn't say it, the disciples must have wondered why. "Why should we go to the other side?" they may have muttered to each other. "There's nothing on the other side but unclean Gentiles. What business could we possibly have on the other side?" But to their credit, no one voiced their questions or objections, not even Peter, who was noted for running off at the mouth. Our text says they landed in a region that was opposite Galilee. It was not only geographically opposite Galilee, had anyone bothered to look on a map, but it was also culturally opposite Galilee. It was a place at which no good, self-respecting Jew would have been seen. But here they were, a boat full of Jews, one of them a rabbi, stepping into the Gentile territory. And the worst imaginings of what they might have found when they arrived didn't even come close to the scene that actually greeted Jesus and his disciples. A naked man who had made his home in the graveyard of a nearby town. A man who today would be diagnosed with schizophrenia, but in his own day was labeled as a man possessed by demons. The people of the town didn't know what to do with him except to otherize him. And by that I mean they held him at a distance, but not at such a distance that they couldn't keep an eye on him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles. This probably gave the people a sense of safety, knowing that their greatest fear, this monster who was so unlike them, was restrained. No harm would come to them as long as he was locked up. It's important to imagine how a first century audience would have received this morning's story. You see, for years they had suffered under the oppression of the Roman Empire. And the Jewish temple in Jerusalem had just recently been destroyed, with thousands killed, many enslaved, and still others scattered as refugees. And to the first century Christian communities, a demon named Legion meant only one thing: a unit of 5,600 Roman soldiers of the occupying army that had destroyed Jerusalem, its temple, its faith, and its people. And so for the villagers in the story, it would have been critically important to keep this demon-possessed man, this symbol of Roman occupation and oppression, chained and under guard. That's the only way they could feel safe and protected from their oppressors, by oppressing someone else. This may all sound kind of strange, but everywhere you turn today, you see it being played out. Backers of the current administration are the townsfolk in this morning's story who believe that if they can just keep certain groups chained up, they will have their perceived demons under control. And so they enchain brown and black bodies, people whom they have been told steal their jobs, rape their women, and bring drugs and violence into the land. They enchain the transgender person, whom they believe has nothing better to do than to prowl public restrooms and cheat at sporting events. They enchain same-sex loving people, people whom they are convinced will destroy the sanctity of marriage. They enchain women who insist on autonomy over their own bodies. They enchain people who don't share their evangelical Christian values because they believe Jesus wants them to. They enchain the hungry and homeless whom they feel or an eyesore and a drain on society. They believe that if they can just keep all of these people under lock and key, then they themselves will be safe and sound. But darn it, those people keep breaking their chains and insisting on liberty and justice for all. So then they are recaptured and reoppressed with stronger and heavier chains. But Jesus takes issue with this sort of ideology. He spent his entire ministry career breaking the chains and shackles that keep people from experiencing community. And he does it in this story by healing the man of his demons and restoring him to sanity. You see, when Jesus was greeted by this man, he didn't see a demon-possessed man who was the source of fear of all of the villagers, nor did he see a man who was the embodiment of their oppressors. He saw a holy other. The man was an other because of the demons or schizophrenia or whatever that caused him to behave the way he did. And he was holy because we all are. What Jesus saw when he encountered the man on the beach was someone who yearned for community. And who doesn't? A man who needed support but instead received nothing but a guard who watched him day and night, and villagers who stood at a safe distance hurling abuse and insults at him for no other reason than because he was different. If you don't see the same thing going on today in the different walks of life, you're just not paying attention. You're not paying attention to the broken people all around you who have been otherized by their community and sometimes even their own family. It's important that we all remember that Jesus does not stand for the inhumane treatment of the people whom God created. And neither should we. We shouldn't, because we've all experienced the loneliness and despair at one time or another in our lives when we felt as if we were the other. Maybe we still are. Maybe we are still living with the reality of what it's like to be the other. If that's the case, then just remember that you aren't just an other. You're a holy other. We're created in the holy image of God, and like the man in our story, we've been called to share that good news with other people. Jesus knew that his message wouldn't be received by the villagers because he was the other in their eyes. He was a Jew. But maybe they would be more receptive to one of their own. So Jesus told the man to stay where he was and share his experience with others. Because even though he may have been the most visible other in his community, it's unlikely that he was the only one. The person who was possessed by demons of inadequacy, unworthiness, shame, grief, or despair was also the other, the holy other, made in the image of God. So never forget who you are. It may feel as if you have lost all sense of your identity because it's so wrapped up in the demons that have taken possession of your whole being. But you are a holy other among many other holy others in this world. People whom Jesus has made the special effort of going wherever he needs to go to remind us of God's love for us and to invite us to live out and share that message of love with others. Amen.